All right, Larry Krueger here from the Pig in a Pickle Krug Show with a little 49er video. Niners making a transaction today, adding a tight end. We'll talk about it next. But first, a word from Pig in a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out. They're in Emeryville and Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. Pig in a Pickle, the best barbecue you're going to find. We're also brought to you by Sharp Corner Sports Cards and Collectibles. Check them out in Monterey, in the Monterey Peninsula. Give Anthony Catania a call down there in Monterey at Sharp Corner Sports Cards and Collectibles. He is at 831-521-5264. All right, let's talk a little 49ers. Niners getting ready for mandatory minicamp. I'll be in Santa Clara tomorrow to talk about it, to watch it. And one of the guys, the newest 49er, they just signed today, is Logan Thomas, the former Virginia Tech quarterback, is now a 49er. He's played tight end. He's converted from quarterback to tight end. We're talking about a guy who's about 6'6", 250, great athlete. And now the Niners can have him be their emergency quarterback as well as their tight end. I really like the pickup. I mean, I like the pickup for a couple reasons. One, the tight end position is just really, really important for the 49er offense. George Kittle is obviously your #1 tight end, but who's number 2? They really didn't have a #2 tight end. Now they've got Braden Willis, who's coming off of his rookie year, and I like Braden Willis, but he's really shaped more like a fullback, more like an H-back. I don't know that he's a real tight end. He's really more of a, he looks to me more like a fullback or an H-back. So, you know, there's Braden Willis. Then there's Cam Latu. Latu has been still not healthy yet. He's been rehabbing a knee injury and trying to get healthy. But, you know, Cam Latu had a nightmarish training camp last year where balls just ricocheted off him. He had a hard time catching the football. So you got Cam Latu, who's a 3rd-round pick. You got Braden Willis, who was a day 3 pick. And they're both second-year players who should improve dramatically. But neither is guaranteed to make the roster. So there you got 2 rookies there. Then you've got Jake Tongues from Cal, but you know, I mean, he's kind of more of a practice squad guy, so he really can't be counted on to be your #2 or #3 tight end. So then what do you got? You got the rookie Mason Pline from Furman, who I really like a lot as a receiver. He's 6'8". He's got big hands. He's a former mechanical engineering major at Furman, and he played basketball at Ferris State. There's a lot to like with Mason Pline. He's probably more of a receiving tight end than a blocker, and he's 6'6", about 250. He's smart. He's got big hands, and I think he's got a lot of potential. But there's no, you know, you're talking about an undrafted rookie free agent, you know, who's never played in the NFL, who's never really played any real football. I mean, he played basketball at Ferris State. He transferred to Furman. He played tight end. He's a good prospect on paper with big hands, 10 1/4 inch hands, huge hands. And, you're talking about a guy who was a mechanical engineering major, so he's very bright, and he's pretty athletic. So there's a lot to like as far as a prospect, but he's totally unproven. So the Niners were going into this, excuse me, into this into this season going, okay, you got Kittle, Pline, Braden Willis, Cam Latu, Jake Tongues. So if we really just went down the list, you'd say Kittle's a true #1 tight end, obviously, but you don't really have a #2. I would say Pline is probably a #3. Willis is probably a 3, maybe a 4. Latu is probably a #2 or 3 tight end. We don't know exactly what he's going to be, but you've got, him in the mix. And then you got Tongues, who I think is probably a 4th tight end at best. So you really only have, between Latu and Pline, you've got some guys who could be a number 2 tight end, could be a number 3 tight end. You don't have that true second tight end. Logan Thomas is a big-bodied guy. We're talking about 6'6", 250, good speed, good hands, smart guy, developmental tight end, but he's getting better. He's getting better and better and better. And I think he could be their tight end too. So, we'll know more once we see these guys all on the field competing in training camp. But I would say George Kittle's going to be your tight end 1. Logan Thomas is going to be your tight end 2. And my guess is that Mason Pline, Braden Willis, and Cam Latu all compete for tight end 3. And that's probably it. The losers probably don't make the cut. So, I mean, that's their situation right now. They were really thin at tight end. They really needed depth there. And they added Logan Thomas. And, Thomas was a quarterback at Vatech. He's a huge guy, 6'6", 250, big hands. I mean, 10 1/4 inch hands, huge hands. I think he's got real potential to be a little bit of an all-around player. He's got sticky hands in that he could be a receiver, but he also has, the power to be able to be a drive blocker and move people off the line of scrimmage. So I kind of like this pickup of Logan Thomas. I think Thomas, has the potential to be their number 2 tight end. And I think he could really be a nice player. I think he can help them as a blocker. I think he can help them as a receiver. If you said to me, how do I think this is all going to shake out? My guess is Kittle is, at the end of the day, your number 1 tight end. Logan Thomas is your number 2. I think Mason Pline is going to wind up beating out Braden Willis and Cam Latu for that number 3 job. My guess is they'll only go with 3 tight ends and not 4. So, there's always the potential they could go for 4 tight ends, but I don't think so. I think they'll go with 3. And my guess is Kittle's your 1, Thomas is your 2, and I will go with Pline as the receiver at number 3. You lost Charlie Werner and Ross Dwelley. They both went to the Atlanta Falcons. Werner's more of a power blocker. He's more of a run blocker. Dwelley's much more of a receiver. Well, I'm looking at this new tight end group, and it's like Kittle's your starter, and he's your number 1 tight end. He's your Pro Bowler. But then I see Logan Thomas as kind of a replacement for Charlie Werner. And then I see Mason Pline as a replacement for Ross Dwelley. So, and I think that's probably the way it's going to go. Dwelley was your receiver. Now that's going to be Pline, and I think Pline has potential to be better than Dwelley as a receiver. And then Charlie Werner was your inline second tight end, blocking tight end in the run game. I think Logan Thomas now can man that spot. And I think overall the 49ers should be in a pretty good spot. Werner was a good blocker, but he couldn't catch it all. I think Logan Thomas is not quite as good a blocker as Charlie Werner, but he's a little bit more versatile and can be utilized as a receiver. Pline, Dwelley was a receiving tight end who really couldn't block at all. I think Pline is a really good receiving tight end as well, but I think he's got more potential as a blocker. So you've got, in my case, I'm looking at this, you got Kittle as your 1. Now you got a number 2 tight end who's a little bit more of an all-around player than Charlie Werner. You got a number 3 tight end in Pline who's a little bit more of an all-around player than Ross Dwelley. And I think overall this is a good, a win for the 49ers in that they have a deeper tight end room and, a second and a third tight end that are a little bit more versatile than what they had a year ago. All right, thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krug Show. Thanks to our good friends at Sharp Corners Sports Cards and Collectibles for sponsoring this video. They're at 205 Cypress Avenue in Pacific Grove. Call Anthony Catania at 831-521-5264. And thanks to all of you guys for supporting the Krug Show on YouTube.